around.
And you have access to the IRS. I mean, so you were in a unique position here. So you could verify, check back and forth what these claims are being made with the IRS. So you can just go right into the office and check in whether or not this. Can you just give me like a high level here? I'm not a tax accountant and I don't play one on television, but could you give me like a high level? What were some of the facts being leveled by both this radio guest and what you were finding in her booklets, and what was, what were these moments sticking out to you? What were these pieces of information and facts that really just lit your hair on fire?
Well, I love your question because I've got an answer, at least an anecdotal answer. Upstairs in this, we called it the Gold Building, believe it or not, where the IRS was housed. Because in San Jose, California, on Market Street, it's literally got gold windows. But upstairs was the IRS law library. And so one of the claims was that the IRS's own internal manuals, called the Internal Revenue Manual, or IRM as the acronym, inside that manual, it would actually say that the IRS Criminal Investigation Division that I worked in, or the Examination Division, which is where the auditors are, or the Collection Division, where the guys that steal or take money out of your bank account and put liens on your houses and those things. If you look at the Internal Revenue Manual, you'll see that it actually lays out that the jurisdiction, the reach, the ability of these IRS agents is limited to Americans who are living and working abroad, outside the country, not inside the country where you'd expect, because that's where we see them. They're on TV, they're out there doing their audits and investigations. And I thought, well, that couldn't possibly be true. So I went upstairs to the law library and flipped through the official Internal Revenue Manual that the IRS, keeps for their own lawyers and accountants. And there it was. In fact, I've got that on my website on the landing page, agentfortruth.com. These copies of the Internal Revenue Manual that I looked at and thought, wow, well, this isn't a lie. This is exactly as these people that the IRS called illegal tax protesters are saying, that the IRS's own admission in their own Bible, their own manual, says that their reach, their jurisdiction is limited to Americans living and working abroad.
And so the crux of her argument is that Americans that are not living abroad and are just living in the United States don't have to pay a federal income tax. Is that the heart of her claim?
Well, it's a pretty deep topic, I'm sure. We could really go into the weeds, and I know you don't have time to do that, but basically it centers on an absence of a liability statute. And what I mean by that is, if anyone just can bear to go into the Internal Revenue Code, and I actually can show you why it'd be hard to bear.
Wow.
To go in. This is from 2012. But anyway, now with the internet, of course, you don't have to go and flip through pages. You can go and do word searches. But the IRS in the 1040 booklet, they display what's called the Privacy Act and Paperwork Reduction Act notice. And that's basically the notice to the public about what laws that are there that require you to do these things, for the IRS, give them tax returns. And the IRS's own admission in those statements, which are required by law, because you as an American are supposed to know what laws require you to do what things. So the IRS spells out, and again, this is on my website, that you must give us a return or statement for any tax you are liable for, any tax you are required to pay. And the courts have ruled that, well, you have to be able to be the person responsible for paying a particular tax. So in the law, there's a person or a party that's required to pay a liquor tax, a tobacco tax, the papers that go around a cigarette, there's a tax on that. There are all kinds of excise taxes that are and income tax that are required to be paid, but there's a person who's made liable, who's designated as the responsible party to pay it. And so it's not, I mean, people might think it's an oversight, but how could it be an oversight that the average American living and working in the United States is not made liable to pay the federal income tax?
So it literally says in the code that as an American, you are not liable for paying federal income tax.
Well, it's absent. In other
It's
words,
absent.
all of these other parties are made liable, but you'd think, job one would be to make the average American liable to pay it. Um, and again, I don't want to keep pointing to the website, but it's just, free information as a way that people can check into what I'm saying. And as I said to you earlier, offline, I'm not a Pied Piper trying to get people to, get into a battle with an 800-pound gorilla. I just, got my story where I came across this information. I took an oath to support and defend the Constitution. I was very mindful of that oath throughout my service. And, I confronted my IRS supervisors. Confronted probably isn't even the right term. I approached them. They all took the same oath that I did. As bitter a pill as it would be to swallow, I just wanted them to look at my analysis. And I didn't make up anything myself. I was simply, as an investigator, gathering, facts and evidence that were already out there.
Right.
And I just felt I had a duty to know what the truth was, because I was raised that, only countries like Cuba or the USSR, Soviet Union for younger people, what's today Russia, have political prisoners. But, in America, only people that actually commit crimes, and are convicted by a jury of their peers are going to be in prison. But I was finding that maybe that wasn't the case. And actually the USA had its own set of political prisoners to keep an agenda going, a system that was actually not telling the American people the truth.